Bhayahari. So we'll continue our discussion of the second verse, 1 point in the first canto, first chapter. And for the sake of completeness, I'll read the verse again, and then we'll continue with our discussion. So this is the second verse, first chapter, first canto. Dharma projita prayatava atruparamo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavamatra vasatu shivadam trapatayor mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune krite kimva pareri ishvara sadhyahridya varudhyate atyakritavi shrutishabhi tat kshanat. Translation: completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in the heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So let me bring up the verse. And so we had begun our discussion on this important verse. This, as you recollect, is the part of the Mangalacharan. The first three verses of the Bhagavatam are considered to be Mangalacharan, or invoking auspiciousness. And our discussion in the verse, we had talked about the first two phrases of the verse. The first was Dharma Projita Kayatava Paramo, that rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. Paramo, this Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth. So when we were having a discussion on this, we briefly made the distinction between dharma and paradharma. That activities that are done to make advancements and activities that are for one's ultimate spiritual benefit. And Srila Vyasadeva was earlier on chastised by his Guru Maharaj Narad Muni for giving so many instructions in the form of the different angas of the Vedas for people to enjoy in a material way. And he was specifically asked to write something that directly glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Bhagavatam was a response to that. And Srila Vyasadeva, he begins with Dharma Pojita Kaitavo, that I am rejecting all cheating dharma, and Atra Paramo, and presenting the Param Dharma. And it also said that the cheating dharma should not be confused with adharma. Adharma is irreligious practice, which are not even spoken about here. Cheating dharma is karma kand, gyan, astang, where basically there is allowance in the Vedas to enjoy materially, even though piously. So the verse begins with Dharma Pojita Kaitava Atra Paramo. And the second phrase that we had also discussed was Nirmat Saranam Satam. That who is it meant for? So it's meant for Nirmat Saranam Satam. Two qualities. Nirmat Saranam means non-envious, and Satam means pure-hearted. So Krishna is Sat, and Krishna's devotees are Satam. So it is meant for those who are favorably inclined towards Krishna and who are not envious of Krishna. And we had discussed a little bit upon the nature of envy. That because of envy, one is unable to develop a transparent relationship. The nature of envy is that you want something that is possessed by the other person, or you resent the other person for possessing something that you may or may not have. And it vitiates one's consciousness. So the qualification of one who can establish a relationship with Krishna is nirmatsaranam satam, that they are pure-hearted and they are non-envious to Krishna. So now we will start our discussion from the third phrase of the verse, which is Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu. So what does the Bhagavatam give us? So it has asked us to reject dharma projita kaitava. It has asked us to reject kaitav dharma. It is promising to give us paradharma. So what exactly is that is encapsulated in this promise? And that is explained in this phrase, Vedyam Vastam Atra Vastu. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion. So if you remember in the very first verse, when Srila Vyasadeva introduces us to a synopsis of the Srimad Bhagavatam, after introducing Krishna, he talks about the fact of the two aspects of Krishna. The illusory aspect of Krishna in the material world, he said, Muyanti Yat Surya Tejovari Pradam Yatha Vinimayo Yatratri Sargo Mrasha. So all this was talking about the illusory aspect of Krishna, by which even the great demigods are put into illusion. Yatratri Sargo, by the reaction of the three modes of material nature, that which is unreal appears to be real. And then in the concluding part of the verse, he talks about Dhamna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam. He talks about his own real spiritual world. So the Srimad Bhagavatam helps us not only understand but realize this distinction between illusion and reality. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is this prayer which is kind of common in schools in India also. Asatoma sadgamayo tamasoma jyotirgamayo mrityurma amritam gamayo. So one of the prayers is tamasoma jyotirgamayo, that take me from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge. And that is what the Srimad Bhagavatam is going to do. It is going to be our path prataksha guru, that it will illuminate our path so that we can go from the darkness of illusion to the light of knowledge, to the light of Krishna. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, Krishna Surya Sam Maya hai andhikar, yaha Krishna taha nahi Maya ra adhikar. The Krishna is compared to sunshine and Maya or illusion is compared to darkness. So wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, one moves away from the darkness of ignorance to the light of real knowledge. And this is what Srila Vyasadeva is promising us that Srimad Bhagavatam will do for us. Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vasatu Shivadam, that it will take us from the darkness of ignorance and it will take us to the light of Krishna consciousness. The fourth phrase is Shivadam Tapa Trayo Moolanam. And essentially these are two phrases. Shivadam is, so the translation is, for the welfare of all, such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Tapa Trayo Moolanam. So tap is like the scorching heat. Trayo Moolanam. Trayo means the three. So the threefold miseries are Adhyatmik, Adhidevik and Adhibhautik. That is miseries that are caused by our body, by our mind and by the environment around us. And each one of us is in one way or the other wrestling with these three kinds of miseries, from birth to death, and again we take birth again, and again we are caught in these three miseries. But the Srimad Bhagavatam gives us shelter from that. it gives us Shivadam. So if you remember in the Bhakti Shastri, when we did the Nectar of Devotion, then Srila Rupa Goswami, he talked about the effect of bhakti. And the two initial effects of bhakti are Kleshangani and Shubhada. So Kleshangani is, Agni is fire, Kleshangani is the burning away of Kleshas, which is the same as Tapatrayo Mulanam, the burning of the threefold miseries. And Shubhada is the same thing as Shivadam, which is all auspiciousness. So we also see now that how all the teachings of the acharyas and the various bhakti sutras, how they are deriving their sustenance from what is spoken in the Bhagavatam, and how everything is interrelated. That what Prabhupada says, what the scriptures say, they are all consistent with one another. Nobody will invent something. We'll hear a little bit more about it later on. So nobody will really invent anything and speak, but it is the same essential roots, the essence that is presented in different ways in order to convince us. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Prachetas, so the Prachetas, as we know, they are the 10 sons of Prachina Bhari. And in the praise to Krishna, this comes in the 4th canto, chapter 30, verse 35. They say, whenever pure topics of the transcendental world are discussed, the members of the audience forget all kinds of material hankerings, at least for the time being. Not only that, they are no longer envious of one another, nor do they suffer from anxiety or fear. So this is the benediction that we get from reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. So they're saying that at least when you're reading it, you forget all kinds of material hankering. And we have experienced this in our own lives. When we attend the Bhagavatam classes in the morning, when we get the time, or even now when we're having this discussion, it's in the middle of a week. It's at least on the East Coast, it's kind of late. All of us, most of us have to go to work tomorrow. But this an hour and a half that we have set aside for Bhagavatam Katha, it is so relaxing, because this is food for the soul. It enters through our ear. Later on in the verse, we'll see that the Bhagavatam is compared to a tonic, and the nature of the tonic is that it enters into your body and it revitalizes yourself. So the same thing is what the Bhagavatam is providing us. And it also makes so the Prachetas are saying that they're no longer envious of us. So remember, one of the qualifications for reading the Bhagavatam is Nirmatsaranam Satam, right? This was earlier in this very verse, but the result of reading the Bhagavatam is that one becomes Nirmatsaranam Satam. So in a way, the Bhagavatam is the path, and it is also the destination. That reading Bhagavatam makes us more qualified to read Bhagavatam. And that is why Srila Prabhupada would say that you have to read over and over again. Even though I didn't hear it myself in a lecture, but I heard somebody else quoting Srila Prabhupada saying that he wanted all his disciples to read his books at least 10 times. And then one might think, why read the books 10 times? That's because of this reason, that the first time we read it, maybe we have a little bit of envy in our heart. But because of the effect of the Bhagavatam, it goes away. And as it goes away, incrementally, every time we read, the realization that we have are even more potent. And then we understand a little bit more, and so on. So the next phrase is Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Krite. This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by this great sage Bhagavatam, by the great sage Vyasadeva, in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. So, after establishing the qualities of the reader, Vyasadeva is now glorifying the book. So he said, Vedyam Vastamatra Vasatu Shivadam Tapatrayo Moolanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Krite Kimva Pare Ishvara. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is compiled by Mahamuni, by Srila Vyasadeva, and Srila Prabhupada in the translation also adds in his maturity. So it is sufficient in itself for God realization. So Vyasadeva is making the point that just by the study of Bhagavatam, one can become perfectly situated in Krishna consciousness. The Bhagavatam is not a supplementary book, the Bhagavatam is not a launching pad, but it is complete in itself. It will give one everything that one needs to make spiritual progress all the way to the point of spiritual perfection. Next is Kimva Pare Ishvara. What is the need of others? So Srila Vyasadeva, so he seems to be, so others meaning, what is the need of the other angas of the Vedas? Now remember, the entire Vedas are compiled by Srila Vyasadeva. So he seems to be rejecting what he has compiled in favor of what he has written. But and factually, at different points, the Vedas are, the Jivas are strongly enjoined to follow the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sanivishto matas pritri jnanam apohanam cha vedesya cha sarveraham eva vedo vedanta krit veda vid eva chaham. That by all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. So Krishna is presenting himself as the Vedas as the way to know him. Then yet why is Srila Vyasadeva rejecting the Vedas? So again, Srila Vyasadeva is not doing anything independently. In the same Bhagavad Gita, actually earlier on, Krishna says that Yam imam pushpitam vacham prabhadyante avapaschita vedavadavata rado nanya dastiti vadina. That men of small knowledge are attracted by the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend fruitive activities and heavenly planets. And Vedavadratha, when they are apparent followers of the Vedas. So we can understand that just like earlier on Krishna had said that dharma projita kaitavo. So in the same mood he is, Srila Vyasadeva is rejecting the other part of the Vedas that present the Kaitav dharma. Because the result of following the other part of the Vedas, you may ascend to heavenly planets, you may get pious benefits, but eventually it is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. That you would again take birth, maybe as a demigod, but you will still die, still suffer, still go into all kinds of anxiety. And this is why Narad Muni had specifically chastised Srila Vyasadeva. So later on in the first canto, in the 5th chapter, 14th verse, Narad Muni tells Srila Vyasadeva, whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. So this is the description of the parts of the Vedas that do not glorify Krishna directly. They simply agitate the mind just like a wind agitates a boat that does not have a resting place. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that Srila Vyasadeva is the editor of all descriptions of the Vedic literature, And thus he has described the transcendental realization in different ways, namely by fruitive activities, speculative knowledge, mystic power, and devotional service. Besides that, in these various Puranas, he has recommended the worship of so many demigods in different forms and names. The result is that people in general are puzzled how to fix their minds in the service of the Lord. They're always disturbed about finding the path of self-realization. So for those who are discerning and who would like to experience, as Srila Prabhupada would say, the higher taste, the Srimad Bhagavatam is there. So in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma, he says, Advaitam Achutam Anadim Anantarupam Adhyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesya Durlabham Cha Durlabham Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamam Bhajam. So Vedesya Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto. So Krishna, he is Vedesya Durlabham. Very difficult to get through the Vedas. Because of this very reason, that the majority of the Vedas are geared towards gradual enlightenment through material enjoyment that will gradually lead one to transcendence. But Adurlabham Atma Bhakto. But Krishna is easily attainable by the path of bhakti, which is the one path that is spoken by Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is why Narad Muni later on, he more directly chastises Vyasadeva. He says, you have misled the people in general. They are naturally inclined to sense gratification and take shelter of these instructions of Srila Vyasadeva. So these instructions of karma, gyan, astang, etc., they offer material enjoyment as a via media or the first step in Krishna consciousness. But people, because they're naturally inclined to this, they simply stay at this stage. So in India, one of the famous verses, karma niyudaka raste ma phaleshu kadachana, and you talk to anybody, then people will say karma niyudaka rasto, that I'm doing my duty. But they will not say ma phaleshu kadachana. They will not say ma karmafal heturbhur. And the reason is that is not something that they are inclined to do. So whatever they do, they will consider that to be their karma. They will say that this is what I am doing. And they will select part of the Vedas without selecting the part of the Vedas that enjoin them to make sacrifices. So that is why the Srimad Bhagavatam is there, which is uncompromising. There is no dharma, arth, kam, moksha that is thrown out right away. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he says, he's paraphrasing the Narad Vyas Vartalap, he says that Narad is saying to Vyas, you have written so many nonsense books, now write one book about Krishna. And Srila Vyasadeva did, and he became happy. And so did everybody else. So that is what we are also going to be doing, that we are going to be reading this one book about Krishna, and we will be happy. The Srimad Bhagavatam has nothing to do with aparadharma. It has only to do with paradharma. It is Vidya Bhagavat Vyadhi, that through knowledge we get connection to Krishna. It is the knowledge of Bhagavat Avadhi. So one's learning is maturing in terms of one's relationship with Krishna and establishing that relationship. So in 1.5.11 it is said that literature that is full of description of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, form, pastimes, etc. of the unlimited Supreme Lord is accepted by Satam. So the Sanskrit of this is Tadvag Visargo Janataga Viplavo. This is 1.5.11, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam. So the last phrase in this verse is Sadhirahidya Avarudyate Atta Pratabi Shushuru Shabis Tat Kshanat. Translation: as soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, By culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within the heart. So the verse started off by by uh, by giving us the adhikar, nirvatsaranam satam. It also explained us the abhiday to some extent, that what is the purpose of the book. Dharma projita kaitavatra parmo vedyam vastu matra vastu shivadam tatrayo mulanam. Now it is giving us the ashirvad, that when one who is satam, when one who is nirmatsaranam reads this book, which is talking about the highest form of spirituality, what happens? The Supreme Lord is established within the heart. So that is what we are aspiring for. When we are reading the Bhagavatam, we are aspiring for the presence of Krishna in our heart. Later on in the Bhagavatam 3.9.11, Brahma prays to Krishna, "O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you." So that is the effect. So that is the effect of the Bhagavatam, that we see Krishna through our ears. We drink the nectar of Krishna's sweetness through our ears. Krishna enters into our heart through our ears, and he takes his seat in our heart through our ears. And there is a precondition, and the precondition is Shushurushubis. So Shushurushubis means one should be eager to hear. So this is a word that appears a few times. Later on it will appear in the second chapter of the first canto. Shushurushubi Shatadanasya Vasudeva Katharuchi. So one should be eager to listen to the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the question here comes is that why is two questions in a way. One is, why isn't everybody anxious to hear the Bhagavatam? And Srila Prabhupada mentions that it is because of their contamination. That the contamination may be in the form of, so in the Bhagavad Gita 4.10, Krishna talks about Rag, Bhaya, Krodha. That people are contaminated by Rag, Bhaya and Krodh. That because of excessive attachment, they become materialist. Or because of excessive fear, they become impersonalist. Or because of Krodha, excessive anger, they become atheists. So because of, until one is free of this, Vita Rag, Bhaya, Krodha, unless one is free of Rag, Bhaya and Krodha, difficult to open one's ear to the message of the Bhagavatam. But the benediction to this is there, that just by submissively hearing to the Bhagavatam, one becomes a Paramhamsa. So it sounds like it's a tall claim, but it's a claim that is substantiated by the benedictions given by Krishna himself, by Srila Vyasadeva, by Narad Muni, and by Srila Prabhupada. So another reason why certain people are more inclined to hear than other is again given in this verse. Sadhu hidri avarudyate atra kritabhi. So kritabhi means pious. So Prabhupada says that one should have done pious activities in several lifetimes to become qualified to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we can imagine that we are all coming together to hear to the Bhagavatam. It's a testimony of not only our desire and sincerity, but also of the progress that we have made in our previous lives and in this life, that the amount of piety that we have accrued, that we have developed a taste to listen to the Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada says, one becomes qualified to hear Srimad Bhagavatam after many pious deeds. The intelligent person with thoughtful discretion can be assured by the great sage Vyasadeva that he can realize the Supreme Personality directly by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam without undergoing the different stages of realization set forth in the Vedas. One can be lifted immediately to the position of Paramhamsa simply by agreeing to receive this message. So Srila Prabhupada is more magnanimous than even Srila Vyasadeva or even Krishna. He's saying by simply agreeing to receive the message. So one may not even be able to understand it completely, to absorb it, far less act upon it. One might say that this benediction accrues to a person who agrees to act upon the message of the Bhagavatam. But Srila Prabhupada is saying that simply by agreeing to receiving this message, one becomes a Paramhamsa. So in the Bhagavatam 2.9.18, this is praise of Lord Brahma to Krishna. Lord Brahma, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart, and thus in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tears of love. He thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the way of the highest perfection, that for the living being, Paramhamsa. So the highest perfection, so what does being Paramhamsa mean? So we are being offered this benediction that simply by agreeing to listen to the Bhagavatam, we will become Paramhamsa. So what does being Paramhamsa mean? Lord Brahma in this praise to Krishna says that one will get personal audience of the Lord. So that is what being a Paramhamsa means. So Lord Brahma followed the path of the Paramhamsa, and in the end he got audience of Krishna. He saw Krishna's lotus feet, he saw Vaikuntha Lok, and he also shook hands with Krishna. That was particular Brahma's rasas. We don't specifically aspire to shake hands with Krishna, but or we may. It depends. It's early for us, but at least what we aspire is to get the association of Krishna. So Prabhupada explains in the Parmod that Brahmaji believed in this art of Bhakti Yoga. He believed in the instruction of the Lord to execute tapa, and he discharged the function with great penance and thus achieved great success by seeing the Vaikuntha Lokas and the Lord also by his personal experience. So first of all, with all conviction, believe in the personality of Godhead, and then without making efforts to realize him by speculative philosophy, one should prefer to hear about him from the Bhagavad Gita and later from the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam. One should hear such discourses from a person Bhagavatam and not from a proportional man or even a karmi, jnani or yogi. That is the secret of learning the science. So Srila Prabhupada is talking a little bit more, and you'll see that in Prabhupada's purports that he always brings philosophy down to practice, because Srila Prabhupada meant this book to be for practicing devotees. It was not meant for theoreticians or academicians or people who are studying the science of bhakti, but it was for practicing devotees. So earlier on he said that simply by agreeing to listen to the Bhagavatam, one becomes a Paramhamsa. Here he says, it talks a little bit more about what does hearing mean. So hearing means that one hears from one who is himself in the same mood or parampara. Not a professional reciter, not somebody who is a karmi, jnani or a yogi, but from a devotee. So we are sitting here hearing the Bhagavatam from Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada embodies the mood of bhakti that will take us to the path of Paramhamsa. Now, in order to hear the Bhagavatam, what should be the changes that we should bring in our lives? And Prabhupada says that So he paraphrases the verse that is spoken by Ramanand Roy to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge and with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to the descriptions of your personalities and activities. So essentially, Prabhupada is saying you don't have to change anything externally. So those who are established, who are situated in their established social positions. So whether you're a Brahman or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra, whether you're a Brahmachari or a Grasta or a Vanaprastha or a Sannyasi, whether you're in India or US, whatever situation you are, while established in that social position, all that you have to do is to agree to receive the message of the Srimad Bhagavatam in a non-envious way from a person who himself is situated in the mood of the Bhagavatam, will assure you the path of becoming a Paramahansa. So, quick summary of this. So that's the end of this verse. A quick summary. So this verse, it glorifies the Srimad Bhagavatam that is written by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamune Krite. That the Bhagavatam propounds the highest truth. It is Parmo. It establishes the knowledge of the Supreme Lord within the heart. Ishvara Sadhyo Hridaya Avarudhyate. It approves the threefold miseries. Trapatrayo Mulanam. It creates auspiciousness. Shivada. It is sufficient in itself for God realizations. Kimva Parer. Ishvara, there is no need for any other literature, again Kimva Parer, and it has the same purpose as Krishna's appearance. And with this, one can capture Krishna in your heart. So this is the Vastu Nirdesh or the Abhiday part of the verse, which is the glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, it establishes the Adhikar of the reader, the qualification of the reader, that the reader should be a devotee who rejects the Kaitav Dharma and accepts the Param Dharma. Then the reader should be free of envy. Nirmatsaranam, should be pure at heart. Satam, should have eager desire to hear Krishna. Tat Kshanat, and should be anxious to hear attentively and submissively. Shushuru should be. And then what are the final benediction that it gives? That we will capture Krishna within our heart. So this is the end of 1.1.2. If there are any questions, if you can unmute the call and see if there are any questions on this verse. I see there is a question on the chat. On the one hand, Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam reject one portion of the Vedas and accept the other part. How to reconcile it with the half-hand logic which Srila Prabhupada describes in Bhagavad Gita introduction? It's a very good question. So for those who don't know, the half-hand logic is that there's a person who had a hen, and the hen, as you know, it eats from one end and gives the egg from the other end. So at one point he thought that while I like the part of the hen that gives me the eggs, I don't like the part of the hen that is constantly asking for food. So he cut the hen into two, and obviously it didn't get any egg. So the rejection of the part of the Vedas, could it be similar to the half-end logic? And it again falls into the conception of following the path of the acharyas. That if we start accepting and rejecting Vedas based on our own material conception, then we will be no different from what almost everybody else is. I gave the example of people saying that karmaneva dikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, that they accept the karmaneva dikaraste or some form of it, but they will reject the ma phaleshu kadachana, ma karma phal hetuhu. That is the half-in logic, because they are doing it whimsically based on their own conception. The reason that the Srimad Bhagavatam is accepted as something that can be accepted while rejecting the other part of the Vedas is because the very same author is recommending us to do that. Srila Vyasadeva, he himself compiled the Vedas, and he himself is saying that the Srimad Bhagavatam is Dharma Projita Kayatava Atra Paramo. So we are not doing it based on our own material conception, but we are doing it based on what has been asked for us to do by Narad Muni, by Srila Vyasadeva. When Krishna says that Yamima Pushpitam Vacham Pravadente Avapastaya, so of course at that point he is speaking more theoretically, that the majority of the Vedas are flowery words of the Vedas are talking about material advancement. The Srimad Bhagavatam is manifesting that in a more specific way. So we become Paramhansas by following the footsteps of the Paramhansas. Next question is, what does purity of heart mean? Is it just faith in Krishna or more than that? So yes, it is faith in Krishna. That is the essential quality of the purity of the heart. As I mentioned, that Krishna is Sat, and those who follow Krishna are Satam. In this particular context, purity of heart also means that one who is free from the desires of material enjoyment. Because the verse starts off with Dharma Projita Kaitavo. And Kaitav Dharma is promising us material enjoyments. So one who is attracted by this material enjoyments, Bhogeshwarya Prasaktanam, that one who wants to enjoy materially, Bhogeshwarya, the opulences of enjoyment, difficult for them to take to the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, again, the purity is a process. We are all aspiring devotees, and sometimes when we see these qualifications, the Srila Prabhupada in the purport says that one has to be a Paramhansa to read the Bhagavatam. And in one point in the purport, he says that one should not proceed beyond the first two cantos unless one becomes completely free of all material desires. And then we are at the end of the second canto, we look into our heart and we see that we still have material desires. And do we proceed or not? But we do, because of the protection that is given by Srila Prabhupada, that as long as we are sincerely aspiring for that role, we are qualified to proceed. So somebody had asked a question, who are the devotees who are fully pure in heart? If you can please explain. So the Bhagavatam talks about so many. The Bhagavatam essentially is a collection of pastimes. So it starts off with describing so many devotees who display this satam. From Parikshit Maharaj, Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Srila Vyasadeva, Narad Muni. There are so many instances of the devotees who displayed this quality of purity. And the reason that they're spoken about is that when we see how do devotees with pure heart behave, we also aspire to be like them. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, so we'll move on to the next verse, which is 1.1 point.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Like the introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is, Prabhupada says, like even for a materialistic government, we see so many departments. Finally, we see ultimate chief controller, who is a person.
Okay.
So, how is that Advaitis say that Brahmajyoti is ultimate? So, we understand in any institution or anywhere, the ultimate controller is a person, or purposes as such everywhere. Like in any institution as such, you might have an impersonalistic department, but ultimately there is a chief controller who controls all these departments, who is the person. So how can that is justified? The Advaitists say that the supreme person, supreme authority might be impersonal. How can that be justified?
So it's a fairly big topic of discussion, Prabhu. You're in effect, uh, I, I guess, because you're you have read Prabhupada's books and you have grown up on Prabhupada's teachings, so it is difficult for you to understand the Advaitic principle. But factually speaking, the majority of the transcendentalists in this world do follow the impersonalist philosophy. And more important than the how is the why. The how is secondary. The why is that they look upon spirituality as an extension to the material existence. Right? So when we come to the material world, we come down to the material world looking to be Krishna, looking to be God, looking to enjoy separately from God, looking to be the center of the enjoyment. So that's our conception when we come to the material world. And many people, when they move from, or I would say most of the people, when they move from this to transcendence, they extend the same conception. So they say that in the material world we come down looking for God. So when we become spiritually perfect, we become God. That is the Advaitic philosophy. So that is the why, and the how is something that is fairly it's fairly convoluted in the sense that great acharyas like Sripad Shankaracharya, they have written copious amount of literature in which like if you, I mean, I would not recommend you do, but the Sripad Shankaracharya's interpretation of Bhagavad Gita, if you put it side by side with Srila Prabhupada's, you'll see that how each verse is interpreted differently. That when Krishna is saying that Natvayam Jatu Nasham Natam Janadipa, which is clear verse talking about the Dvaita philosophy, Shankaracharya interprets it, goes to great lengths to interpret it that he's talking, the individualistic notion that he's talking is notional, and it is a temporary representation of the ultimate the ultimate impersonal self. And it's not for us to think too much about it. Sufficient for us to know that Krishna is a person, and a way for us to understand it is that there's different analogies that Prabhupada gives us for developing the conviction. Like the department, and sometimes he talks about the president, that in a country everything is done by the order of the president, and one may think that the president is impersonal, that he's everywhere, he's in the Department of Home and Department of Defense, but ultimately the president is a man. So things that we can relate to.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
This Paramatma Prabhu, Paramatma Das from Guyana. I heard you were explaining that by submissively hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, this qualifies us to become Paramahansa, submissively desiring to hear and receive Srimad Bhagavatam. And then you went on to explain that the Paramahansa sees Krishna and is able to capture him in his heart. I'm just wondering if this is, we should take this as, in a figurative way. I was just thinking, is it a figurative expression that we capture Krishna in the heart? Or
So,
we see Krishna?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you for the question. So, Srila Prabhupada was very specific about this, that when the benedictions are given in the scriptures, they should be taken literally, not figuratively. Sometimes we see the falstutis as being very exalted, and to some extent, depending on the mood of the person, to some extent they may be because of humility, that the devotees will think that I'm so small and Krishna is so great, and just by listening to the Bhagavatam, how can I achieve something that is so great? Sometimes, and that mood is kind of okay, I would say, because it helps one to develop the mood of humility, as long as it does not interfere with one's faith. Other way that some people interpret upon it is that these are exaggerations that are given just from the perspective of making a sale. That you go to a shopkeeper and this person says that you buy this and this medicine will cure all your diseases, and it's only for 50 naya paisa. And you look at a small bottle with some dubious liquid in it for 50 naya paisa, and you say, oh, will this really solve all my problems? And so you're basically doubting the integrity of the salesperson. So it's not. So we are not in the latter mood. We don't doubt the integrity of the promises that are made when Srila Vyasadeva, Krishna, and Srila Prabhupada himself are making this promise that when we agree to listen to the message of the Bhagavatam, we will capture Krishna in the heart. Prabhupada demonstrated that by his own personal example. We see also the example of other acharyas who simply by listening to the Bhagavatam have achieved spiritual perfection. So then there is no reason why it should not happen to us. All that we need to do is have faith in the process and have patience.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So there's a question that as Bhagavad Gita was first spoken by Krishna to Vivashwan, later to Arjun, is there any reference of Srimad Bhagavatam prior to Vyasadeva? Yes, there is reference. In fact, there is references in the Bhagavatam itself to Bhagavatam being spoken, and we'll speak about it later on. So I won't take a lot of time now, but yes, there are references to the Bhagavatam spoken prior to Vyasadeva. Okay, very good. So we will move on to the third and the last verse of the Mangalacharan. Nigamakалпатарора-galitam phalam sukhamukhadamrata-drava-samyutam pibad-bhagavatam rasamalayam murahurasika bhuvibhavukaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Srila Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including the liberated souls. So, the connection between this and the previous two verses is that Srila Vyasadeva, he had glorified Krishna He had glorified the Bhagavatam in the previous two verses. Now he is urging us to engage with the Bhagavatam. So he wants to make sure that this does not become an academic or a theoretical pursuit, but he wants us to actively engage with the Bhagavatam. So the verse is divided into 7 parts, and we will go over them. Hopefully we'll finish them today. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam. So the Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literature. So kalpataror means that desired tree. And the Vedas is a desired tree in the sense that it will yield anything that you are asking for. If you want material opulences, it will give you that. If you want siddhis, it will give you siddhis. If you want knowledge, it will give you knowledge. And if you want Krishna, it will give you Krishna. The Vedas contain Ayurveda, which is for health. It has Dhanurved, which is to wage war. The Vedas also have black magic, tantras, that you can use to cast spells, to control ghosts and spirits, all in the same Vedas. In the Panchatantra, there is a story based on the Puranas of how there were 2 witches who would travel by chanting mantras. They would sit on a tree and chant mantras, and through that they could travel anywhere, to even to different planets. So all this is currently there in the is there in the Vedas. Currently maybe not accessible, but that is the nature of the kalpa. That is the nature of the kalpataro. The Srimad Bhagavatam is Galitam Phalam. So Galitam Phalam means that it is the mature fruit. And a desired tree, like a tree, it can offer many things. Maybe the leaves of the tree are bitter. Maybe the twigs in the tree, they are hard. And maybe the fruits in the tree are succulent and juicy. Maybe there are some fruits that are still not ripe and they are bitter. So in this desire tree of the Vedic literature, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the Galitam Phalam, that it is the mature fruit. And why it is the mature fruit, we had this discussion earlier on also, right? So we had spoken about how the Vedas, I think I have a slide on, yeah. So this is a for those of you who are who can see the screen, I'm showing the structure of the Vedas, that it is the Shrutis and the Smritis, and the Shrutis contains the Vedas, the Upavedas, the Vedangas. Then under the Smritis, there are the Puranas, the Pancharatras, Tantras, the Sutras, there is the Darshans. So all that is contained in the Vedas, different Angas of the Vedas. And the Vedas are actually even much more than that. Much more than what we think we know, the Vedas are even much more than that. Jiva Goswami in the Tattva Sandarbha says that in Brahma's planet, the Vedas comprise of 1 billion verses. So that is 9 zeros, 1 billion verses there in the Vedas. By the time it comes to us, it is much reduced. And Srila Vyasadeva, he extracted 400,000 verses out of this, and he put it into the Puranas. So the point Jiva Goswami is making is that the Puranas are extracted from the Vedas. So they are non-different from the Vedas, but they are much more accessible. In the Vedas, it is said that the Vedas are meant to be read by the Brahmanas, and there are no Brahmanas in this current age. In the Skanda Purana, it is said, Kalau Shudra Sambhava, that in this age of Kali, everybody is a Shudra. In the Mahabharata, it is said, so who's a Brahman then? In the Mahabharata, it is said Na yori na api samskara na shrutam na cha santati karnani dvijitvasya vritameva tu karanam. Neither birth nor samskar, nor learning, nor progeny are the qualifications to be a Brahman. Only Brahmanical conduct is the basis for Brahmanical status. So sometimes, or a lot of time in the current age, people say that I'm born to Brahman parents, so I am a Brahman. Or somebody will say because of samskars, not much prevalent now, but we see vestiges of that, especially in the southern India, where they still have Upanayan samskars and other samskars. So then say because we have gone through the samskars, I'm a Brahman. Or somebody might say that I've read the Vedas, so I'm a Brahman. But in the Mahabharata it is said that neither by birth nor by samskar, nor by learning, nor by progeny one is a Brahman, but only by Brahmanical conduct does one become a Brahman. And the Brahmanical conduct is Patan Patan, Yajan Yajan, Dana Parikriya. That a Brahman engages in these 6 activities. Patan Patan, that he reads and teaches. Yajan Yajan, he performs yajna for himself and for others. Dan Pratikya, that he accepts in charity and gives in charity. So a Brahman is one who is situated in the way of the Brahman, the one who is situated in transcendence. So practically speaking, in the current day and age, there are no Brahmanas. So that is why in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto, 4th chapter, verse 25, it is said, Stri Shudra Dvijabandhu Nam Travina Shruti Gochara. That out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women laborers, friends, for women's laborers and friends of the twice born. So just like Mahabharata is a Itihas, Srimad Bhagavatam is also a Puran in the same category. It is specially recommended for this age of Kali. And not only is it specially recommended for this age of Kali, it is also the ripened fruit of the desire tree of the Vedas. So it is something that is the Yug Dharma, the studying of the Bhagavatam, but it is also the most mature realization that one can extract from the Vedas. So for those of you who are from India, you have experienced eating mangoes that are ripe. We used to have a mango tree behind our house, and my mother used to say that don't pluck the mangoes. You wait for them to fall and then you eat them, because when mangoes are ripe, they fall by themselves. So that is Srimad Bhagavatam. It is a ripened fruit that is now falling into our hands by the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva and Srila Prabhupada. And it is further sweetened by Sukadev Goswami. So just to take this analogy one step further, if you look at a tree, essentially it's the same fluid or sap that flows in the entire tree, right from the tree, the roots to the trunk, to the branches, to the leaves and the fruit. But if you were to dig a hole into the trunk and take the sap from there, it will have a different taste. If you take it from the leaves, it will have a different taste. But if you take it from the ripened fruit, it will have a sweet taste. So Krishna is there in the Vedas. The Vedas are the desire tree, and everywhere there is Krishna. Even the benedictions that we get from Karmkand are there because of the presence of Krishna. All the mystic siddhis that a yogi acquires by austerities is because of the connection with Krishna. But it is the sap that is flowing in the roots or the trunk. When one reaches the stage of bhakti, then one is actually tasting the fruit of the Vedas, the fruit of the desire tree of the Vedas in its most sweetened and concentrated form. So one may question that you're saying that this is Nigama Kalpatarur, that this is the desire tree of the Vedas. But what if I have no desires? And this is more of theoretical because we all have desires. But there are people who have no desires. Sukadev Goswami was one of them. He himself says that I was already situated in the Brahman. But the Bhagavatam says that this is meant for even them. In 2.3.10 it says Akama Sarva Karmo va Moksha Kamo Daradi Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajati Purusham Param. That whether one is with desire or without desires, one should worship Krishna. Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajata Purusham Param. Similarly, later on, towards the end of the Bhagavatam in 12th canto, 12th chapter, 65, it is said that a Brahmana who studies the Srimad Bhagavatam achieves firm intelligence and devotional service. A king who studies it gains sovereignty over the earth. A Vaishya acquires great treasure, and a Shudra is freed from sinful reactions. So one may question that earlier on, Srila Vyasadeva has said Dhamma Projita Kaheta, that I am rejecting all kind of cheating religion. And now he's saying that the Bhagavatam will give a king sovereignty and a Vaishya a great treasure. And similar to a question that was asked later on, the half-end question, that why would the Bhagavatam speak something that it is rejected? The difference is that the Bhagavatam does not leave one at that point. It is also, there are so many false stutis that are offered in the Bhagavatam, but the Bhagavatam does not present that as the ultimate goal. It will always connect it with the ultimate goal of Krishna consciousness. That is the difference. So later on when we read the Bhagavatam, we will see many benedictions that are being given which may appear to be material. But factually speaking, they are presented in the context of one's spiritual journey. So just in terms of the desire tree, there is another desire tree. So we talked about the desire tree of the Vedic knowledge. There is another desire tree that is presented in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and that is the desire tree of Bhakti. So this is in Adi Leela, chapter 9, verses 26 to 50. And that desire tree is described in the context of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the trunk of the tree and the fruits are sweet. He is not only the trunk, but he is the gardener, and he is also distributing the fruits of the tree. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that I am only one person. How many fruits can I disappear? Can I distribute? So that's why he says that Bharata Bhume Hoile Manushya Janmayara Janma Sarthak Kari Karo Para Upkara. One who has taken birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsh, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. And the ultimate benefit is that one gives them the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the only way that one can give the knowledge of Bhagavatam is by reading the Bhagavatam himself. That is the reason, if you look at the introduction of Bhagavatam, it is a brief biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself represents the philosophy of Bhagavatam in action. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's favorite pastime was listening to the Bhagavatam. And when he was not listening to the Bhagavatam, he was distributing the message of the Bhagavatam. So in the introduction, Prabhupada says, in the modern age, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached the Srimad Bhagavatam by practical demonstration. It is easier to penetrate into topics of Srimad Bhagavatam through the medium of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy. Since Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the absolute personality of Godhead, he is both Bhagwan and Bhagavatam in person and in sound. Therefore, his process in approaching the Srimad Bhagavatam is practical for all people of the world. It was his wish that the Srimad Bhagavatam be preached in every nook and corner of the world by those who happen to take birth in India. So the second, so I see I'm out of time. So we'll end over here. I guess I continue to go a little bit slower than I expected, but that's okay. I'll stop over here. I want to devote the last 15 minutes for questions, and I'll see if there are any questions.
Prabhu,
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, do you recommend, we read Srimad Bhagavatam of Prabhupada himself, or is it like we can refer, we need to refer some other book along with your presentation?
So Prabhupada's Bhagavatam contains almost everything that we need. There is a book by Borijan Prabhu called Unveiling the Lord's Lotus Feet, and kind of like supplement to the Bhagavatam, pretty much like Surrender Unto Me is supplement to Bhagavad Gita. And I would recommend you to
Yes.
get it and read it. And that in itself should be sufficient, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So there was not a question, but can we get this slide on the screen without any portion cut off? Definitely, I'll send it to Prem Kishore Prabhu, and he'll make it available to you. Okay, do you have any other questions, comments? If not, then maybe I can use the time to, at least I don't think I'll be able to complete the verse, but maybe we'll proceed on the verse. So the second phrase, so this has actually 4 parts, not 7 as I said. So we did the first part, which is Kalpa. Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Prabhu, if I have, can I have, ask one question on?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, like Srimad Bhagavatam is natural commentary on this thing, like natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra, all that. So why is that then? Every other acharyas, while commenting about Vedanta Sutra, they use these. Like if we see our, Govinda Bhasha, while everything is, substantiated by Bhagavatam itself. But when it is, declared that it is, or even it is written at the maturity of Vyasadeva's, life, like he has written lost, as this one is lost. But why other acharyas use Srimad Bhagavatam, they use Shrutis and other to comment the Vedanta Sutra, their bhashyas on Vedanta Sutra?
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. It's a wonderful question, a little deep question, but wonderful. So, couple of ways to approach this very nice question. One is that in the other traditions, especially the impersonalist traditions, for whatever reason, it was considered that an acharya or the followers of the acharya would not be considered to be bona fide unless they wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The Vedanta Sutras, as you know, they are Brahma Sutras. They are basically more inclined towards towards Brahman realization, and uh, uh, not because they exclude the personal realization, but it's the nature of when you're expressing something in the form of sutras. It is the nature that it'll tend to be impersonalist. So, uh, so most of the followers of Sripad, Shankaracharyas, and other impersonalist sanghas, they would establish their authenticity by writing a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, because in the Vaishnava tradition, the Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be a natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. There was no commentary on the Vedanta Sutra written for a very, very long time. And ultimately, and this happened, I believe, somewhere in the 18th century, ultimately what happened is that the Smarta Brahmins, they wanted to reject uh, the Bhakti Marg. So they went to the king and they said that there is no, in order for an approach to be considered to be bona fide, there has to be a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. And in this Bhakti Marg, we don't see any commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. Therefore, it is not bona fide. So now the king, and I don't know the details, I don't know the name of the king. I know that he was a Rajput king based in Rajasthan. So the king, he was by nature a Vaishnav. So he invited Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur to come and speak on it. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur at that time was very much advanced in age and very old. So he called his disciple Baldev Vidyabhushan and he said, "You go and represent me." And of course, he gave him instructions on how to approach it. So Baldev Vidyabhushan went to the court of the king and he explained that how the Srimad Bhagavatam is by the same author. He gave references. And the Smarta Brahmins kept saying, no, 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 this is not possible. We need to see a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. And then Baldev Vidyabhushan said, but there is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So then the king said, produce it. And Baldev Vidyabhushan said, okay. And now I don't remember whether he asked for, how much time he asked for, whether he asked for 1 week or 1 month, but he asked for some time that was very short. And he said that, we'll produce a commentary. And in that time, he wrote Govinda Bhasya. Now he called it Govinda Bhasya because, according to Baldev Vidyabhushan, he did not write it. Govinda Bhasya means as spoken by Govinda. So he said that Govinda spoke to him, Krishna spoke to him, and I simply wrote what Krishna spoke to him. I personally have not read Govinda Bhasya, but my understanding is that it is very much in the mood of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is very much in the mood of the Bhakti Marg, and it was not written as a competition for Srimad Bhagavatam, but apparently it is written as an it is written as an elaboration on the Bhagavatam. That it is almost like the Bhagavatam is an expansion on a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. The Govind Bhasya is a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam being a commentary on the Vedanta Sutras. So there is no difference in the understanding that is there. And of course, when it was presented in the court of the king was very happy, and then the Smarta Brahmins went away. So there's a bit of a political intrigue that happened there, but also it gave us access to Govind Bhasya. But unfortunately, my understanding is that it is, because it is a commentary directly on the Vedanta Sutras, in the mood of a commentary, it is difficult for us to understand. So, like I said, I personally don't have any experience, realizations reading it. Does that help, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay, do we have anything else? Okay, so we'll end over here.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think there's a question on the chat.
I don't see it.
He said, is a Hare
Okay, I see it now.
Krishna Prabhu to have the taste of sweetness?
To
It is
taste,
not.
you have the taste of sweetness. Is it not? We have to go through the bitterness as well. Nice question. Nice question. And a devotee question, actually. So, Prabhupada would say that, there are different classes of people. That the first class person, he will hear something and he will do it. Then a second class person, he will see something being done and he will do it. Third class person, he will experience something, learn from it, and then do it. And then he jumped right to, he said, a 10th class person, he will see something, he will do it, but then also he will not learn. And Prabhupada was talking in the context of the enjoyment in the material world. And we are aspiring to be first class people, which means that we don't want to go through all the suffering. We've obviously gone through it. We're in the situation we don't want to continue to go through all the sufferings in order to appreciate the sweetness of Bhagavad. We want to take the word of the Acharyas. We want to take the word of Srila Prabhupada that this material world is, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, it's no place for gentlemen. And we want to go to the spiritual world. But the nature of existence is that later on this discussion comes in. The nature of the material world is that just like happiness comes, the other way. It says that just like distress comes without seeking, happiness also comes without seeking. So we don't have to go out seeking bitterness. It is there. It is there. We are experiencing it every day, every moment. We are experiencing it. All we have to do is to distinguish it from the sweetness of the Bhagavatam. And as we follow the process that is prescribed, then that sweetness manifests more and more to the point that either the bitterness becomes inconsequential or it becomes overpowered. Either we taste the sweetness to an extent that our tongue does not get bewildered by the bitterness, or we develop this magnanimity that anything that is happening in this material life is a lesson for us to be learned. So the answer to your question, Prabhu, is yes and no. That no, we don't have to go out seeking bitterness, and yes, the bitterness is there even without us seeking it, but the sweetness is independent. It is not predicated on us seeking bitterness. One should not seek the Bhagavatam only out of distress, only out of misery, only to get out of trials and tribulations. And the Bhagavatam is supremely independent in that way. Okay, so if there isn't anything more, I will end at this point. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anant Koti Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.